we start to get a little bit of romance. A book that's truly going to impact you and impact your soul. I was hooked, I was drawn in. Another book I could not put down. February has come to a close, so it is that time of the month again. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a book review of all 9 books that I read in the month of February. At first I was a little disappointed in myself because I did not read or exceed as many books as I read in January, but I would still call this a pretty good feat. Plus there's also less days in February, right? Like 2 days less than January, so maybe I could have finished another book or 2 if I had those 2 extra days. That's what I keep telling myself. Okay. We're gonna go through this list, not necessarily in the order that I read them because I would have to look and I have no clue at this point. So we're gonna go through these 9 books together and talk about everything that was read in the month of February. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Gracie. I do lifestyle, books, travel, got some travel coming up, all kinds of stuff. So if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe down below so that you don't miss another video. Now let's get into what I read and what I thought. I wanna start out with a book that just released this month. I've never really been good at reading books like the month or the time that they come out, but I felt like it was very appropriate that Bride came out this month because first of all, especially if you've seen some of my videos before, I love Ali Hazelwood's writing. So when I saw that she was coming out with a paranormal romance, which is again, not really like a style of book I typically would choose, I said, I need to try it. I need to see what the hype's all about. It's almost 400 pages. And let me tell you, I could not put this book down. I almost read it in one day. A little bit of background about this book is about a vampire bride and a werewolf husband in which they are trying to unite the vampires and the werewolves without having to involve humans in the territory. I'll give you a little bit of backstory based on the back. It says a vampire bride and an alpha werewolf form a dangerous alliance in this enthralling new paranormal romance. Basically what I just said. The girl's name is Misery and the guy's name is Lo. Okay, Misery, I thought that was a little bit of a strange name for a main character, but there is an explanation in the book as to why she was named Misery by her parents. Still was not obsessed with the name, but maybe that's just like how vampires name their kids, so I let it slide because the writing is immaculate. For the first like 30 or 40 pages, I don't know what it was, if I just wasn't in the mood or whatever. It's kind of hard to get into this book, but once I was in, I was locked in. I did this as a part of my changing out my screen time for reading challenge. I didn't exactly finish it. I think I had about 150 pages left after that day of reading, and I woke up the next morning and finished it literally before I did anything else. So that tells you I was hooked, I was drawn in. It is a romance book. These two obviously do get married, but it's kind of like, ooh, is it gonna be enemies to lovers or what's it gonna be? Because they technically already are married, so like forced proximity kind of, and enemies to lovers. So really great read. Twists and turns I did not expect. There were a couple things I was like, okay, obviously that makes sense. But towards the end, the ending, how it all happened, I was like, what on earth? But definitely I would say she left room for herself to write a second book and make this maybe a series. Ali Hazelwood doesn't really have series, but I just feel like she could still play off of this book and its characters. So I'm excited to see if she does that. I gave this book a 5-star. I just felt like it totally drew me in and that it was amazing, and I totally would recommend. Great for February love month, but honestly just great to also try something new. I just truly loved it. I can't say many more good things about it, but you just gotta pick it up and read it for yourself. Sticking with a little bit more on the fantasy side of things, I finished both Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows in the Throne of Glass series. As I have told you guys before, but I will say it again, I'm trying to put books in between the Throne of Glass series. I ate up the ACOTAR series so fast. I miss it so much, and I've heard Throne of Glass is supposed to be even better. I wasn't really convinced until I finished Queen of Shadows, so take that as you will, to each their own. It's probably also because I came right off of ACOTAR and kind of jumped right into Throne of Glass, but I've been trying to put books in between so that I space them out a little bit more, which honestly I didn't think I was gonna love, but now I appreciate it because it also gives me a chance to read a couple other books, refresh my mind, like kind of not just be in a fantasy world all the time, and I've been appreciating it. Right now I'm actually currently in the tandem read of the next 2 books, and I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to stop myself before reading Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in this series this month. We're gonna see, but here's kind of what we got with these books. I don't want to do any spoiling if you're not reading the Throne of Glass series. It's really hard because there's a kind of a transition between these 2 books, right? We start to get a little bit of romance, kind of like enemies to lover in this. It is a slow burn, and I'm predicting it's gonna continue to be a slow burn. So good. I believe I gave this 4 stars. This was my first 5-star read out of the Throne of Glass series. So this is where I really got hooked, and I could not put this book down. I could not stop reading it, especially toward the end. I was like, I need to know what is going on in this world in Aurelia. Like, I just need to know. So we do have these 2 books. And again, if you're not reading this series, you kind of gotta obviously start from the beginning. But these are, I believe, books 4 and 5 in this series. Really holding out for a few things, but again, don't want to spoil. I will definitely, I think I'm gonna do like a roundup of Throne of Glass with spoilers after I'm done. If you're interested in that, leave a comment down below. But without spoiling much, these are great books, great series. Cannot recommend Sarah J. Maas's writing enough either. And that's all I'm gonna say about that without having to spoil anything, especially because it is the middle of the series. I think this was my lowest rated book of the month. I believe I gave it a 3. Kind of meh. Listen to this as an audiobook from Taylor Jenkins Reid, Maybe in Another Life. So it's about this girl, Hannah, who didn't know what she was really doing with her life, moved back home to California, and then after like the first chapter or so, it goes into what her life would be like in 2 different scenarios, whether she had stayed longer at the bar the one night, or whether she had just gone home with her friend and her friend's husband that night, and then just how her 2 lives end up based on that. So every other chapter goes between like each life. I found that to be a little confusing via audiobook sometimes, because I'm like, wait, what's going on? Which characters are who? They both end pretty similar in different lives. She's just, can I spoil it? She's just with different people. You know, it was a quick, easy listen, great in the car. Like, I didn't really go out of my way to listen to this book. Maybe it would have been better reading it or listening to it. It was only okay. So if you want like an okay, like this could be probably a really good beach read. Not so heavy, light, put it down. You're not really like anxious to keep reading like some of these other books that I read this month. So just kind of a midway book, but did want to throw it in there. Maybe in Another Life, Taylor Jenkins Reid. Obviously, if you haven't read her 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so good. So I do love her writing. I just thought this book was a little confusing and just not my favorite. Again, listen to it as an audiobook, so always take it with a grain of salt, because it's definitely a different experience reading versus listening, but that's just what I felt about this book, story, characters, plot, etc. February was Black History Month, and I really wanted to take it upon myself to specifically read a book from a Black author. I was seeing it all over my Goodreads, I was seeing it on Amazon, and I was like, you know what? Specifically for this month, I do want to do this, and let me tell you, I was between a lot of different books, and there's definitely a lot of them that are still on my to be read list, like my TBR, like that I want to read. But I chose Take My Hand. It's set in the state of Alabama. I went to school in Alabama, so I go, okay, we're gonna put this one first on the list. That's really how it went down on which one I was gonna read first. Like I said, they're all, I want to read them throughout the year, but this is the book I chose, Take My Hand. It's based on a real story. The characters are all made up and a couple other things are made up, but the basis behind the story and what's going on in this book are real, which is scary because this is about women's reproductive rights and birth control and all of that. It also breaks my heart. I'm not going to get into politics. I'm not going to get into news or anything like that. But during this month, the state of Alabama also changed their laws on reproductive rights. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm literally reading a book about what they used to do to poor, underprivileged girls. One of the girls in this book is 11 years old. This is a heartbreaking story, but it is one that needs to be read. It was so good. Like, I cannot wait to pass on this book. It's, first of all, a great story. It's heartbreaking, it's beautiful, but the extent to which one nurse goes for a family is pretty incredible. So I loved this book. Another book I could not put down. My heart was breaking as I read it, but I was like, this is so important. I think it's so important for everyone to read something like this. I don't know really much else to say other than you need to read this book. Like, I have been recommending this book to everyone. A scary truth of what used to happen. And I'm just grateful that this isn't the case anymore, or at least not exactly the case anymore, giving sterilizing shots and other things in the book, which I won't spoil, to little girls who don't even talk to boys, don't even see boys. So much I want to say about it, but I'm just gonna end on read this book. Thank you. On to lighter things. I saw this book on Goodreads while I was scrolling. I was like, oh, I'm gonna order it. Like, this sounds funny. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Well, it came in the mail like this, and I was like, what is this book? Maybe I should have read more about it. I just thought that it had high star ratings. And I do count this as reading a book, also because I logged it on Goodreads, because it is an illustrated story about a boy, a mole, a fox, and a horse. And they're all friends, they all become friends, but they all share knowledge, and it takes to the point of letting out your inner child, healing your inner child, also by reading things that's like, I think it's important to eat cake, says the mole. And it's just different things like this that make you look at it and smile. I wouldn't say this changed my life, but just a sweet book and sweet reminders of like valuing who you are, your interests, loving people, just all kinds of stuff. Along with, I mean, honestly, some really cute little pictures that go along with it. For example, is your glass half empty or half full? Asked the mole. I think I'm grateful to have a glass, said the boy. But it just makes you think like, oh, half empty, half full. I never would have thought to say I'm just grateful to have a glass. Just different little things like that. I thought it was really cute and impactful. I just gave it 4 stars because also super easy, super quick read. But just another thing, like maybe if you have children or just people who really need to read something just precious like this, I'd recommend. I saw this book all over my social media in the month of January, and I said, gotta get it done in February. I gotta see what the hype is all about with First Lie Wins. I did not read this physical book copy. I did order it just to talk about it. It's fine. I listened to this as an audiobook in the car. It was intriguing. It pulled me in. Like I said, it's a whole different experience than reading it. But sometimes you just don't have time to read everything. Like I'll listen in the car, I'll come home, I'll read a different book. That's just how I go. This is a really good, I don't know if I'd call it a thriller, murder mystery, but these kinds of books, especially on audiobook, like really keep me hooked in, reeled in while I'm driving around, while I'm doing my thing. I really enjoyed this First Lie Wins. Again, the girl's like supposed to be from Alabama, but there's hidden secrets. There's all kinds of stuff. Evie Porter's not really Evie Porter. She has different identities every few years depending on what cases she's working on. She kind of has a very interesting job, but she's also a very strong woman, which I really enjoy reading about in a book. So if you want something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat until the very last page or the very last chapter, this is a book I would recommend. It actually did live up to the hype because I feel like a lot of women or people that I follow read this for like book club in January. It's like, I need to get on that book. And so yeah, I would recommend. I think if you like these kind of books, even if you don't, check to see if your library has got it on audiobook. You can always try it that way or read it. Like I said, I think it'd be a different experience to read it, but juicy, 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 and didn't exactly end up the way that I thought it would. So I like when a book is predictable, but I also hate it at the same time because I was like, oh, I could have written that then. Like not actually, but this did not end the way that I thought it was going to. So if you need something interesting, fun, and something to keep you on your toes, I really enjoyed this. And especially as an audiobook, it can be hard to like love an audiobook, but I believe I give this 4 stars. We're coming to the end. We're gonna go with one that is a super popular read. If He Had Been With Me. I see this all over TikTok reels, like, oh, this book destroyed me. Well, the whole book is given away in the first page of the book, but of course then you get to go through everything that happened before that and sort of learn about it. And like I was saying in my other video when I read this also as part of my screen time video, this book just knew how to immediately bring me back right to high school. I didn't have the same high school experience by any means as Autumn, but the feelings were there. I just feel like it just brought you back to those moments of when you thought you knew exactly how the world worked. Like listen, don't come for me. I'm only 24 years old, like just barely 24. So I'm not saying I claim to know how the world works yet either, but I think I have a way better idea than I did at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Truly, I do. But this book just brings you back to like how you felt like the world worked when you were that age, and all the heartbreaks and the relationships and the drama and everything that comes out of it. Autumn and Finn are the names of the 2 characters in this book. Autumn and Finn's mothers have been best friends for the longest time. They live like right down the street from each other, like right next door basically. Their fathers are kind of both out of the picture, so they hang out a lot as a family of 4, the 2 moms and the 2 kids. But of course things end up happening between them, good and bad, relationships, friendships, everything. Would I say this book wrecked me? No, because I knew exactly how it ended based on the beginning of the book. But also there were a couple of things where I was like, like it just broke my heart a little bit at the end too. So it still ended well. I was really close to giving this 3 stars when I was reading it, and I probably will settle around 3.5, but I gave it 4 on Goodreads because the end did like it brought it all together, because at one point I was like, So, you know, I've also heard Archer's Voice is good. I've actually got it on my bookshelf. I have not read it yet, but it's on the list of things I want to read. I heard that one is way better than this. I have not read it. I cannot attest to that statement particularly, but that's just what I've heard. So maybe if you're like in between and you want a book like that, maybe choose the other one. This is good. This was an easy read, like couple hours, super easy. It's not that expensive of a book. I think around like $7 on Amazon. Again, you know exactly what's gonna happen. It's just all the things that happen in between that you find out throughout this book. So it was good. I wouldn't say it was great or amazing, but it was good. Final book that I read this month that I'm gonna talk about. I didn't read this as the last book, but I randomly picked this book up at the library last month. I actually really need to go return it in the next couple of days because I still have a library version of it. This is called American Dirt. This story, again, this and Take My Hand are like my two really heartbreaking books of the month. This story is a book about a mother and son escaping from the drug cartel in Acapulco, Mexico. It at first drew me in because I just was in Acapulco, Mexico last year, and I was like, I really just want to know more, because this truly is based on a lot of people's stories who escape from cartels and from their hardships in Mexico and like make it over the border into the United States. I feel like no words that I will say will do this book justice. It did take me a while to get through this book for a couple of reasons. It was heartbreaking. It felt so real because it is real. It's based on true stories, and the crazy lengths people go to try and have a better life for themselves, for their family, the people that they meet along the way. Lydia's husband was murdered along with 16 of their other family members at like a quinceañera barbecue. You'll know that in the first couple pages of the book. Her and her son only make it because he had to go to the bathroom and she was helping him with something. You know how scary that is? It's scary to think about that they just were on a hideout and that's how they made it. It will turn out she knows the murderer and he's not who she thought he was, and it's just a whole heartbreaking story about the journey that they go through to get to the American Dirt. It really puts some things into perspective too. I've never really read anything like this, and like I said, this is real life. This is still happening. We're just bringing in like human life. I'm talking on like a human life standpoint. If this is how life was for me, if this is how I felt, like, not to get deep on the last book, but like, y'all, this changed me in quite a few ways, and I would recommend, like, open your heart, open your mind, and just read a book that's truly going to impact you and impact your soul. This is it. This is it. And those were my February reads. Current look into what 2 of my March reads are, because yes, I am tandem reading Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. The goal today is to get through more chunks of either of these books. I really heard that this is gonna destroy me. No spoilers, please. I've already been putting off these books. You can see how many books I read this month, trying not to get into this because I don't want it to be over. I don't want my soul to be wrecked. X, Y, and Z. But these are my 2 starts to the month of March. I'm also listening to an audiobook right now. I believe it's called All the Dangerous Things through the library. So this is what I've got for March. Okay, hear me out. Let me know in the comments down below. I will not be home in the beginning of April to film a March reads. I already know this. I like to get all these physical copies because I think it's fun to like hold them up and show you guys. I am only bringing my Kindle on that trip. I'm still gonna be on that trip, like just kind of everything that's going on. So do you want a March reads video? Even if it's just Kindle, I don't really have visuals. I can like pop stuff up on the screen. I think that's the plan. Y'all let me know. Like, I'm hoping to finish these before I leave for that trip. I guess all that to say is like, is it okay if I just talk with my Kindle? Because I'm not gonna be able to get the physical book copies with me. Just let me know. And that's it for my February reads. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure that you subscribe down below and then leave a comment on any more book videos you want to see or anything else like that. I love you guys so much. If nobody has told you today, I'm so proud of you. Whether you read 1 book in the month of February, half a book, 1 page, 17 books, I'm so proud of you, and I think that that is awesome. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!